He's tough, tired, and always one step behind the truth. Private detective takes on a seemingly simple case, finding a missing woman. But nothing is ever simple in the City of Angels. This is a gritty, old school mystery with smoky bars, femme fatales, and a hero who just won't quit. If you love noir with style, this is one story you'll want to follow to the end. Hello to all the classic people who are returning. I'm glad you're back. I want to welcome any new visitors and let you know that there will be spoilers ahead. Today on Classic Movie Review, we're taking on Farewell by Lovely, 1975. This film is a neo-noir remake of the classic film noir Murder My Sweet, 1944. An earlier version of the film, The Falcon Takes Over, 1942, was the first movie based on the novel by Raymond Chandler. The star of today's film is what makes this film stand out. IMDb.com has this film rated at 7.0. To me, that's a meager rating. However, I think it's about right for this film in some ways. As a devoted Norista, there are many reasons why I would watch this film. The average viewer may find some of the plot points dated and some of the actor choices were odd. RottenTomatoes.com has this film rated at 71% on the tomato meter and 71% audience approval, mirroring the ratings from IMDb.com. The great film critic Roger Ebert liked this film and said in a January 1st, 1975, 4-star review, quote, "It is, indeed, the most evocative of all the private detective movies we have had in the last few years. In the genre itself, there hasn't been anything this good since Hollywood was doing Philip Marlowe the first time around. One reason is that Dick Richards, the director, takes his material and characters absolutely seriously. He's not uneasy with it, as Robert Altman was when he had Elliot Gould flirt with seriousness in The Long Goodbye. Richards doesn't hedge his bet, and neither does Robert Mitchum in what becomes his definitive performance. Mitchum is one of the great screen presences, and at 57, he seems somehow to be just now coming of age. He was born to play the weary, cynical, doggedly romantic Marlowe. His voice and his face and the way he lights his cigarettes are all exactly right and seem totally effortless, unquote. On the other side, New York Times film critic Richard Eder said in an August 14, 1975 review, "It has been touched up with a little contemporary sex and violence and more than a little contemporary cinematic self-indulgence. It's as if someone had put pillow springs, power steering, and a tape deck into a classic racing car. It's still handsome and it still goes, but it's handsome mediocrity," unquote. Youch. It's a good story and a good movie, but it makes you face the fact that you and your heroes get old and things don't always work out as expected. Actors. We have a lot of returning actors this time. The first of which is Robert Mitchum as Marlowe, who makes the whole thing work. He's a beaten down private investigator. Maybe not as far gone as Ira Wells, Art Carney in The Late Show 1977, but getting there. Mitchum was first covered in one of the greatest film noirs out of the past, 1947. Charlotte Rampling played the role of Mrs. Grail and the missing Velma. Rampling was first covered in the neo-noir Angel Heart, 1987. John Ireland played the role of Detective Nolte. He really looked the part of a public servant at the end of his career. Ireland was first covered in the classic Western Red River, 1948. Anthony Zerbe played the role of gambler/gangster Burnett. Always up to play a bad guy, Zerbe was first covered in the fantastic post-apocalyptic thriller The Omega Man, 1971. Harry Dean Stanton was solid as cop Billy Rolfe. Stanton was first covered in Red Dawn, 1984. Avenge me, boys! Avenge me! Joe Spinell had a small role as Bonebreaker Nick. Spinell was first mentioned as the Army psychiatrist in Big Wednesday, 1978. Sylvia Miles was outstanding as the drunken Mrs. Florian. For this role, she was nominated for the Best Supporting Actress Oscar. Miles was born in 1922 in New York City.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
She went to Washington Irving High School in Manhattan. Later, she attended the Actors Studio in Hell's Kitchen. In 1947, at the age of 23, Miles started working in the theater. She secured her first television work in 1954 and her first movie role in Murder Incorporated, 1960, a nice little New York gangster film. Miles was in many films, but they were generally minor roles. Some of her earlier works include Parish, 1961, Violet Midnight, 1963, and Pie in the Sky 1964. She was in the 1960 Carl Reiner television pilot for Head of the Family during the same period. She played the role of Sally Rogers, who was one of the comedy writers. The show was picked up as The Dick Van Dyke Show, 1961 to 1966, but Miles's role went to Rose Marie. A critical role for Miles was a short 6-minute scene in the once X-rated Midnight Cowboy 1969. Miles played a kept woman who interacts with the movie's gigolo. She was able to show her sexy side and her curvy body. Miles was nominated for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar, and it was not the shortest movie scene ever nominated. Miles continued in film with The Last Movie 1971, Who Killed Mary What's Her Name 1971, Heat 1972, and today's film, where she received her second Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. This time, the scene lasted approximately 8 minutes. Movies that followed include 92 in the Shade 1975, The Great Scout and Cat House Thursday 1976, The Sentinel 1977, 0 to 60 1978, Shalimar 1978, The Funhouse 1981, Evil Under the Sun 1982, Critical Condition 1987, and Sleeping Beauty 1987. Crossing to Lansing 1988, Miles played the role of Shad Shanty, or marriage broker. Apologize for my Yiddish. Miles' other key films include Spike of Bensonhurst 1988, She-Devil 1989, and she played the high-end realtor in Wall Street 1987. Miles continued working when she could, and her films from this period include Denise Calls Up 1995, High Times Potluck 2002, Go-Go Tales 2007, and a return as the realtor in the sequel, Wall Street Money Never Sleeps 2010. Miles died in 2019 at the age of 94. The story was set in Los Angeles in 1941. Dark streets are illuminated by numerous neon lights. Looking out the window of the flea-bitten Casa Marina Hotel, private detective Phil Marlowe, Robert Mitchum, stares as he drinks and smokes. He reflects on feeling old and the bad cases he's been having lately. Marlowe is hiding in the hotel in an attempt to avoid the police. At last, he calls Lieutenant Nolte, John Ireland, and lets the cop know where he is holed up. Marlowe tells Nolte to come alone, but Nolte wants to know if Moose is in the room. Marlowe doesn't really tell him. Cop Billy Roth, Harry Dean Stanton, brings the commissioner, Logan Ramsey, into Nolte's office. The commissioner says there has been 7 murders, and he wants Marlowe brought in. He also tells Nolte it is not a good idea to go by himself. Nolte arrives at the hotel, but leaves Roth in the car. Marlowe lets the cop into the dirty room.
What I need is another drink. I need a lot of life insurance. I need a home in the country. I need a vacation. I got a hat, a coat, and a gun. That's it.
Marlowe is determined to tell his version of the story before being brought to the police station. He says that he was working on an investigation into a missing teenager. Marlowe is shown inside a diamond dance joint. He finds the girl and takes her outside to be turned over to her parents. Watching from the other side of the dance floor is Moose Malloy, Jack O'Halloran. Moose follows Marlowe outside as he delivers the teenager to her parents. Moose is a giant, standing 6 feet 6 inches tall. However, all I can see is the hulking dum-dum from Superman 2. Moose asks Marlowe what he does for a living. Marlowe tries to get away, but a car comes by and they fire shots at Moose before Marlowe can leave. The shooter is Cowboy Vernon Gilliam of Blazing Saddles 1974. No, boys, not like that. Like Swing Low. Moose doesn't care that he's been shot at. He tells Marlowe that he wants him to find Velma Valento. Velma was his girl before Moose was sent to prison for a 7-year bank robbery stretch. Moose says he hasn't seen her in 7 years and she hasn't written in 6. Moose then tells that he stole $80,000 in a solo job. Marlowe tries to convince the giant to forget about Velma, but it's not happening. Moose insists that Marlowe go with him to Florian's nightclub, which was the last place he knew that Velma worked. Florian's is downtown. Everyone except Moose and Marlowe is black. Moose insists that they go inside.
Let you and me go on up. Huh? Okay, but leave up carrying me, would you? I can walk by myself. I'm all grown up now. I go to the bathroom by myself and everything.
Moose then manhandles a bartender, Harry Caesar, and a young bouncer is called out to get rid of Moose. It works out very poorly for the bouncer. Moose goes into the back to talk to the owner, Montgomery. Off screen, he lifts the man up on the wall. The owner pulls a gun, and Moose kills him. Marlowe tells Moose to leave before the police arrive. Moose then gives Marlowe $50. Marlowe calls Nolte, and much later the cops show up. Marlowe says it was self-defense. They then have a few racial quips. Marlowe goes to a hotel across the street and bribes the clerk, Napoleon Whiting, for information. The clerk says a man in room 210 used to play in the band at Florian's. Marlowe goes to the room and is led inside. Tommy Ray, Walter McGinn, is white. His wife is black, and their son is biracial. Marlowe says he's looking for Velma. Tommy says Florian is dead, but his wife Jessie, Sylvia Miles, may still be alive, but he won't say much more. Marlowe is friendly to the small boy who identifies as a baseball player. Seeing the kindness to his son, Tommy has a change of heart and gives Marlowe Jesse's address and advises him to take a pint of bourbon along. Marlowe drives to the dilapidated house. Jessie is delighted to have a friend with a bottle. She looks like she's been rode hard and put up wet, wearing only a tattered robe. Marlowe tells her who he's looking for, and Jessie asks for a drink. She drinks and talks about her past in show business. Jessie says she doesn't know where Velma is, but she may be able to find out where she is located. She then says she doesn't understand why Tommy would lie about knowing Velma when they had worked together in the past. Jessie calls Tommy, and she convinces him to trust Marlowe. Marlowe goes back to the hotel and is delivered the picture by Tommy's son. Marlowe goes to a burlesque club and is given the name of talent agent. The agent says the picture is of Linda Gilder. He says she did a couple of pictures before losing her mind and being sent to an insane asylum. Marlowe visits the woman at the asylum, and she is completely catatonic. He then goes back to his office, and Lindsay Marriott, John O'Leary, is waiting to talk to him. Marriott says that a friend had her valuable jade necklace stolen. He has paid $15,000 to ransom it back from the criminals. Marlowe is suspicious, but he takes the job for $100. Geld is geld. Marlowe and Marriott plan on meeting that night at 8 p.m. As Marriott leaves, Nolte and Rolfe arrive. The cops are looking for Moose. Marlowe pushes Nolte to find out why he is so interested in Moose. He is not given an answer. Marlowe goes to a Chinese restaurant for supper. Moose arrives, and Marlowe tells him about Velma being in the insane asylum. Moose looks at the picture and says it's not Velma, and then he leaves. Marlowe drives back to Tommy's apartment, and the man has not been home all day. That night, Marlowe meets with Marriott. Marriott hides in the backseat of the car. Marlowe has the money and drives down to the barricade at the end of a canyon road. Marlowe gets out of the car to look around and is knocked out from behind by a man. When he wakes later, a policeman is shining a flashlight in his eyes. When they walk back to the car, they see that Marriott has been murdered. The cop hauls Marlowe in and they interrogate him. Marlowe talks his way out of the crime. When Marlowe is released, he desperately wants to know who is trying to frame him. Nolte then tells Marlowe that Moose has left for Mexico. Marlowe gets a tip from a fence to go to a place in Chinatown to find out about jade. The Chinese fence, Jerry Fujikawa, tells him that the only one with the missing type of jade is Baxter Wilson Grail, Jim Thompson. Marlowe drives to the Grail mansion. Grail is very powerful in Los Angeles politics. Marlowe is led into the house where he is introduced to Grail's wife, Helen Charlotte Rampling. Mr. Grail tells Marlowe that none of the jade is missing. Helen sends her much older husband away. She wants Marlowe to find Marriott's killer. She then tries really hard to put the hooks into Marlowe.
Why don't you come over here and sit beside?
And I've been thinking about that for some time. Ever since you first crossed your legs, to be exact.
These damn things are always up around your neck.
He ends up kissing her on the couch and is busted by the husband. Ooh, sticky situation. Back at his office, Marlowe is attacked by Cowboy, Johnny, Sylvester Stallone, and Nick, Joe Spinell. The three henchmen take Marlowe to meet with professional madam Frances Amthor, Kate Murtaugh. At the cat house, the prostitutes are all sitting around the dinner table. Amthor says she wants to talk to Moose. Amthor beats Marlowe pretty good for talking back. He hits her in the mouth, and guns are drawn. With the PI subdued, Amthor then shoots Marlowe with heroin and throws him into a back room. When Marlowe wakes, he finds Tommy's dead body. Marlowe makes himself wake up by sheer willpower. When he hears someone coming to the room, he pretends to be dead. Cowboy comes in, and Marlowe jumps him and takes his gun. Marlowe goes through the bordello looking for Amthor until he finds her in a room counting money. Marlowe wants to know why she had him kidnapped.
This is a gun. When you got a gun in your hand, people are supposed to do what you tell them to do.
Before she can answer, a prostitute runs in and says Johnny is with Doris. Amthor runs out of the room. She starts beating the crap out of Doris. Johnny fires 2 rounds into the madam, ending her life. Marlowe uses the chaos to escape from the house. He makes it to Georgie, Jimmy Archer's apartment. Georgie sells newspapers and had been a prize fighter when he was younger. It takes Marlowe some time, but he gets back on his feet with the help of Georgie. Later, Marlowe says that he has told Tommy's wife and son that the man is dead. In his office, Marlowe gets a call from Helen Grail. She invites him to a private political party at the White Orchard Club, like the White Lotus Club. Marlowe goes to the event, and it's all very bougie. The club is owned by Larry Burnett, Anthony Zerbe. Burnett is a gangster and a friend of Mr. Grail. Marlowe knows Burnett from when he worked in the district attorney's office. Marlowe asks Burnett about Marriott, but there is nothing to learn. Burnett offers Marlowe $2,000 if he can arrange for him to talk with Moose. Burnett gives Marlowe the cash. Marlowe leaves with Helen.
Where to?
My place?
What for? We got everything we need with you.
They have a little thing in the car by the beach. Later that night, someone fires 2 shots into Marlowe's car. He's pretty sure they missed him on purpose, but he doesn't know who is trying to send him a message. The next day, Jessie calls Marlowe to come over. He brings her a new bottle. Marlowe tells that Tommy is dead and the picture of Velma was phony. Jessie says that Velma contacted her and wants to speak to Moose. Marlowe knows he is being followed by Burnett's men. In his office, Marlowe gets a call from Moose. He tells Moose that Velma wants to talk to him. Moose says he doesn't know Grail or Burnett. Marlowe meets with Moose at Georgie's apartment. The phone rings. The voice on the other end is Velma, and Moose is thrilled. The call ends quickly, and Moose tries to give Marlowe some more money, but he's broke. Marlowe gives him a few dollars. Moose and Marlowe leave to meet Velma. The meet location is a dirty little hotel on the outskirts of town. Marlowe drops Moose off. As he is turning the car around, he sees another sedan in the alley. He blocks Moose with his car and saves the big man's life as 2 men open fire with automatic weapons from inside a room.
Moose, get down!
Marlowe kills the 2 shooters. Moose bugs out, unable to accept that he has been set up by Velma. Nolte and Rolfe come to investigate the killings. Nolte is mad that Marlowe didn't call when Moose made contact. Marlowe and the cops then go to Jessie's house. The radio is playing loudly, and they eventually find Jessie strangled in the bedroom. Back in current time, Marlowe says the business card that was found on Marriott's body was the same card he had left with Jessie earlier. He says Moose called the night before and is still worried about Velma. Marlowe knows that whoever is behind all of the killing and the search for Moose hired Jessie to call when Moose showed up at her house. When Marlowe arrived, she made the call. He says Tommy was given an inducement to give Marlowe the false picture. He thinks someone has kidnapped Velma because it was actually her that talked to Moose on the phone. Marlowe says Burnett is involved and he is going to the criminal's yacht. Although Nolte is supposed to bring Marlowe in, he decides to allow him to go to the yacht. Marlowe and Moose meet Georgie on an arcade pier. Georgie has been beaten by someone, but he says he didn't give anything away. Marlowe and Moose boat out to the yacht. Marlowe knocks down a couple of bodyguards. They pass through the gambling room on the yacht before finding Cowboy and Nick. Marlowe pulls his gun and demands to see Burnett. Moose throws Cowboy into the ocean. In his police car, Nolte has a change of heart and says they are going to the yacht. Rolfe argues that they would need to let Burnett know first before they went out there. He leaves the car, but the rest of the cops head towards the boat. Marlowe and Moose are taken to Burnett's stateroom. He denies knowing Velma. Moose is ready to tear Burnett's arms off. Marlowe then sees a fur coat and tells Helen to come out of the closet. Moose greets her as Velma. Velma tells Moose that he will get his full cut of the stolen money for taking the fall alone. Marlowe tells Moose that Velma was a prostitute and is now married to the very wealthy Grail who doesn't know anything about her past. He says that Burnett was behind the entire scheme. The only other people who knew about Velma's past were Marriott and Amthor, both of whom are now deceased. Velma orders Moose to take Marlowe's gun. When Moose takes the gun, Velma shoots her old boyfriend 3 times. Moose dies, not knowing why Velma turned on him. Velma aims at Marlowe, but he shoots first. Three of Burnett's henchmen are outside the door. Nolte arrives and kills Nick as the other henchmen flee. With Nolte in the room with Burnett, Marlowe leaves, disgusted by the sword case. Later, he gives the $2,000 to Tommy's widow and son. Conclusion. In the novel Farewell, My Lovely, 1940 by Raymond Chandler, Philip Marlowe was 30-something. When this film was made, Robert Mitchum was 57 years old. It has been reported that many people thought that Mitchum was too old and out of shape for this role. Film critic Gene Siskel, who was a television partner of film critic Roger Ebert, wrote that Mitchum, quote, plays Marlowe with a delicious ease. He sounds just like Marlowe should sound, unquote. I have to say, after watching this again, Mitchum knocked it out of the park. Mitchum said that producer Elliot Kastner wanted Richard Burton for the role of Marlowe. That would be a crime against moviedom. Marlowe continually checks on New York Yankee Joe DiMaggio's game-hitting streak as a thread through the movie. It is shown in newspaper headlines, and Marlowe even has an ongoing bet with Georgie. Marlowe narrates about a doubleheader versus the Washington Senators. During this doubleheader, DiMaggio tied and then broke the American League record. Just before Marlowe gives the $2,000 to Tommy's widow, he plays an arcade baseball game. He bats the ball and is out by the third baseman. This is how DiMaggio's streak ended, by hitting it to the Cleveland Indians' third baseman on July 17, 1941. Marlowe reads about it in the newspaper following his arcade game. The streak was ended with a 56-game hitting streak. DiMaggio went on to be married to Marilyn Monroe, hawked Mr. Coffee Machines, and was lyrically questioned by Simon and Garfunkel. World-famous short summary: Let sleeping dogs lie. If you enjoyed the show and want more, please give me a like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.